You're rock and roll.
Your granddaughter's sure prettier than you, Jim.
But no,
Yeah,
no,
I
sit
know.
there, sit there.
Because it's
I've
recording.
been playing with my computer, needless to say.
Yes?
But I look better now, don't I?
Yes.
Oh. Hey, Mike,
Yes.
I got an electrical question real quick.
All right.
I've got 2 switches in the bathroom. Is there a way to get a plug off of those 2 switches? Or is that, there's no
No,
hot?
that's not totally impossible. What happens is we just look to see if we can find a ground in there, you know? Because you
Okay.
got power, obviously, because you got a switch in there. So a lot of times when they make up the box, they just continue the neutral or the neutral onto the circuit.
Okay.
And then the other time is they just run the switch leg in there and be done with it. But you got 2 switches. Probably one of them runs a bath fan, the other runs the light.
Yeah, bingo.
Yes, okay.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, Mike. Thank you.
No problem. This is not brain surgery, Jim.
Okay.
It depends on the brain, Mike.
Hey,
He's bad.
Leslie!
hello, Leslie.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
We're
We're
just
good,
fine.
thank you. Hope everybody had a great Easter.
We did. How about you?
Yes, very good, thank you.
I went to the Bay Area just for that.
Oh, how was the weather there, Mike?
It was cold in the morning, but it wasn't all that bad. I have a mother-in-law that's in her late 90s.
Wow.
I don't know how much longer she's going to be with us, or hopefully she'll be for a long time. But, you know, my wife passed away some time ago. But we've always maintained a good relationship all these years. And of course, I've known her forever, for crying out loud, you know, because I'm old, so what can I tell you? So it was nice.
Oh, that's nice, because it was beautiful here, boy. How about the weather here, guys?
It was
Wow.
great.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful day. Okay, here we go.
We haven't seen Travis yet.
Oh, there's an imposter there. Oh, there he
There
is.
he is.
There he is.
Yay.
Hey, Travis.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
afraid you weren't gonna show up, Travis.
Nope. I just trying to get everything ready to get the meeting started. Richard needs the.
This is a lot better than the meeting I was at the last time. I was having trouble with the computer, and it was just absolutely making me crazy.
Yeah, I think you had both on, Mike. You had the computer and your phone, so it gives it like.
We ended up going to the phone because I couldn't get the eyeball on my laptop to work, so that was the issue. So anyway, now it's working just fine. So anyway.
Oh, good. Yeah, you sound great.
Thank you.
Hey, who's looking over Kippy's shoulder?
Oh, that's
I wonder where he went.
I like that. That's pretty good, Kim. That's great.
That doesn't look good for a little while.
Where did you get?
Wow.
My daughter brought it home.
You should give her a gold star on that one.
That's right.
She was at a candy store in Irvine. And he was standing there in the window. So she brought it home.
All right, everybody. I think we are getting close to a quorum. We have 7 in right now. And then Richard Saldano looks like he is logged on a call. And for those in attendance, I have the speaker slips for those who've requested to speak. But it'd be helpful if you would also use the raise hand function on Zoom. So you'll come up to the top and I can promote you advance of these speakers.
I'm in the middle of a meeting right now online, so I'll have to call you back. For what? Oh, March the 3rd, or March the 10th. Yeah, okay, I'm sure.
Still at 7. I'm expecting most of our group to be here tonight, so we should have more than enough for a quorum. I'm gonna go ahead and wait. We'll wait a few minutes just to make sure everybody can get logged in.
I saw you at school today, Leslie.
You saw me at school today?
Yeah, I had to stop in to get a pass. I was going up to the administration office.
Why didn't you say hi?
Well, just everybody's working so feverishly getting that school for 4 days a week, you know?
I know. You know what? Actually, today, George, it was really busy, but I'm sorry I didn't see you. Goodness. It was very busy today. Yeah, we are getting busy.
I told Dr. Newman that my grandkids, we got 2 up there now, and they're just happy as heck to get back to school.
Oh, I'm so glad. I know we had fun today because we were really starting to plan all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little spoiler alert, but it was fun. It felt very normal today, so I'm glad about that. Yeah, it's exciting. And you're right, George. The kids are very happy to be back. I will say that. So that's a good thing.
Is the school system, Leslie, is the school system going to continue on in the summer to pick up on all the time that the children lost?
Good question. I had a few calls about that today. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I know that we're, 4 days a week now. We'll be 5 days a week on May 17th. But as far as the summer, it's to be determined. Stay tuned.
Well, it certainly would be prudent if they decided to do that. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy because these children have just gotten so far behind from what I keep hearing from other, just out in the area, So it's really important for kids to get one-on-one training or schooling.
It's been such a challenge for everybody, honestly. The kids, the teachers, the parents.
Grandparents?
Yeah, that's right. Don't forget about the grandparents. I'm one too.
I tell you what, though, Leslie, all you folks at the district, you set the pace for the whole doggone country. On how yeah.
I'm proud of that, George. I agree. I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that. Yeah, Alpine really, really, it was in the forefront of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Something to be proud of. Well, we were the first to have the kids come back 4 days a week. We were the first to get our staff vaccinated. If they chose to, of course, personal choice. Yeah, it's the first to do all of the, the filters and everything in the air systems. Everything's about safety, electrostatic cleaning. Everybody's been trained. The custodians have been going through rigorous training. It's wonderful. I feel very safe and I'm very proud of us.
So now are the children going to be 3 feet apart?
I read that. Yep.
3 feet, no 6 feet.
3 feet. No more 6.
Hi, Travis. This is Richard. Just calling in.
Hey, Richard.
Hello.
For those in attendance, if you bear with us just for a couple more minutes, I want to give an opportunity for a couple more planning group members to get logged on. But it does look like we have a quorum, so we'll be starting here probably in the next less than 5 minutes. And again, for those who have sent a speaker slip and plan to provide public comment tonight, if you would go ahead and use the raise hand function on Zoom, it promotes you to the top of the list so I can see those speakers and I can organize them in the order of the requests received. Thank you very much. There's Mary. All right. 4, 5, 6.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes, Richard.
Okay, I just want to make sure you can hear me.
I can hear you. You're cheating.
Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Calling in on the phone again.
Hey, that's what they say in auto racing, but, you know.
Yeah.
For those just joining us, I'm going to allow for just a couple more minutes to get the rest of our planning group members logged on.
Hi, Travis. This is Victor Woods from Viejas.
Thank you, Victor. I just promoted you, so you're on the call. All right, we'll go ahead and start. Give me just 2 more minutes. I know we have a couple members trying to log on right now, but we do have a quorum, so we'll be starting shortly. Appreciate everybody's patience. We'll get going in just a minute here. So again, for those of you who, those are members of the public who had put in a speaker slip and plan to speak tonight, if we would go ahead and use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, it'll move you to the top of the attendee list. And so it's a little bit easier for me to promote you.
Hello, Mary.
Well, good evening.
Isn't it good to see Mary? I don't think we've seen you in a year. Well, I haven't seen anybody in person in a year.
No, good to be seen.
All right, we do have a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and get this meeting started. We'll call this meeting to order, the special meeting of the Alpine Community Planning Group. And we're going to begin with an invocation and pledge of allegiance. So if everybody would stand, put your hand over your heart for the pledge of allegiance.
We are standing.
All right, I'll go ahead and get us started. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands,
one
nation,
under
indivisible,
God,
with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all. Jim, would you lead us in brief invocation?
Yes, I will. Lord, we'd like you to look down on this meeting we're having. Guide us to make the decision that is best for all of Alpine, and we're going to come to this decision. We ask this in your name. Amen.
All right. Before I go into roll call, I'll go and start with roll call members. Travis Lyons, present. Jim Easterling. Jim Easterling's present.
Present.
Jennifer Swanson.
Present.
Glenda Archer. And Glenda, you're muted, but Glenda's present. George Barnett.
Present.
Roger Gray. Mary Harris.
Present.
Al Hayden. You know what? Al's connecting right now. Justin Johnston.
He's muted.
Yep. Mike Milligan.
Here.
Leslie Perricone.
Present.
Richard Saldano.
Present.
Kippy Thomas.
Here.
Victor Woods.
Here.
Okay. We do have a quorum. And so I'm going to go ahead and approval of minutes, correspondence, and announcements. I don't have any minutes on tonight's agenda. As I mentioned, it's a special meeting. I want to go ahead and outline a couple of the things I want to do tonight. We do have, I have 23 public comments. So I want to move the meeting along quickly. I want to make sure everybody gets heard. I think if everybody's respectful of our time, I think we can get through this meeting in the allotted time frame. And I don't want to limit public speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 3 minutes per person. We have the county on the line. They're going to give a brief introduction and background, or at least a summary of the park. I'm going to give a presentation, give some background on some of the work the planning group's done. We have a special presentation from Preserve Alpine Heritage, and then we're going to move into public comment. The one thing I'm going to ask for all the members of the planning group, during public comment, I want everybody to mute your line, so we have no disruption, so everybody can present, everybody can be heard. And I'll go through and mute if I see noise coming from one of these speakers that disrupts the meeting. So again, I appreciate everybody's patience, and I'm hopeful we can keep the meeting moving along. For those of you, again, one more reminder, for those of you who are logged in, planning to speak tonight, I see 13 of you have your hand up. If you had sent me a speaker slip, I have you on a list. I'm going to try to go in the order they were received, and I can come back to you if I kept somebody out of order. But if you would, go ahead and use the raise hand function so I can quickly identify you to promote you. And I'm also going to make an effort to promote up to 3 panelists at a time. I'd ask that you follow the same rules I asked of the planning group members. Please mute your line and be respectful while the person in front of you gives their speaking comments. And so then we can keep moving along. And I'll promote as we go through the meeting. So at this time in every meeting, we read the Alpine Community Planning Group statement. The Alpine Community Planning Group was formed for the purpose of advising and assisting the Director of Planning, the Zoning Administrator, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors in the preparation, amendment, and implementation of community and sub-regional plans. The Alpine Community Planning Group is an advisory body only. This is our first open discussion for the night. And based on my quick scan of everybody who's raised their hand, these are all speakers on the item on our agenda. Unless any planning group members have any items off the agenda they want to speak on, I'll go ahead and move it to our special presentations of the night. Hearing none, seeing none, I'll move it on. So we have Lori Bradley, you know what, I need to promote Marcus, I think. Marcus Lubitsch, Johanna Solomon, and Crystal Benham from the County of San Diego here to give us a presentation on the amenities of the park. And so give me just a minute. I promoted Marcus, and I think he's going to be the one presenting. So if everybody would go ahead and mute your line. And then Marcus, you're muted. And then let me know that you have the ability to share your screen.
You guys see my screen there?
Not yet. Should come up in just a minute. There we go, Marcus.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
could have one extra button. Okay,
Hey, thank you.
I'll stop sharing now.
Oh, you're going to go first, Marcus, so go ahead and keep it up. And Marcus, you're muted. There we go.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought you were going to go a little bit further. Let me get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcus Lubich. I'm the Park Project Manager for County Parks and Rec. With me today, as Travis alluded, are several of my team members, Crystal Benham and Lori Bradley from our Resource Management Division, and Joanna Solomon from our Park Operations. We would like to thank the Alpine Planning Group for the opportunity to present tonight. Tonight we'll go over, provide just a high-level overview of the park design and the status on the project and where we are in the schedule. And then we'll kick it over to Travis, obviously. So first, I'd like to go over the property location. I'm sure many folks know where it's located. We're adjacent to the existing open space as Wrights Field along South Grade Road. Understanding that our property is part of a larger open space area, we did work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the California Department of Fish and Game to locate the park adjacent to existing development and create one contiguous open space area. This is consistent with our preserve design guidelines. By doing this, we're maximizing this contiguous open space, as I said. We're minimizing impacts to sensitive species, and we're reducing indirect biological impacts. As such, 73 or roughly 75% of the property is being preserved. We are developing that 25 acres for the park with a mixture of active and passive uses, which we'll get into now. So here's the overall park concept plan with that mixture of uses, as we said. I'll go over this concept, go over each amenity tonight, and just really describe what each is and what we're proposing. Before I get started, I wanted to go over a few things. Water. We will be connecting to the water line on South Grade Road using Padre Dam municipal water, unless there's some unforeseen circumstances, which we do not see, but that's our plan. We're moving forward in that direction at this time. In order to minimize water consumption, we are planting native drought-tolerant landscaping, and the baseball field will be artificial turf. We are coordinating. Additionally, we're coordinating with the Alpine Fire District and County Fire on the design and fire assessment study for the park. We'll continue to work with them on that and conducting the fuel modification on the park property that we do now and in the future. And ultimately, with the design of this park, our goal is to construct a safe park that can serve as a shelter-in-place facility for the community during wildfire events. Lastly, we'll be installing a pathway along the park's frontage to promote pedestrian safety, shown here in orange, and we'll get into a little bit of. In addition to that, pending the results of our traffic study, we are going to include a stop sign and potential pedestrian crossings along our frontage there. We're also coordinating with the Department of Public Works on our traffic study and long-term improvements along South Grade Road that would occur beyond the scope of this project, but would promote safe access to the park in the future. And first step in that process is for the Community Planning Group to put that pathway improvements on South Grade Road on their capital improvement program priority list next time that's requested by Public Works. So I do encourage the group to put those improvements on the list. It'll help us prioritize that project, those projects, and get funding for those as well. Now we'll get into the amenities. Starting with the equestrian staging area, there'll be 10 spaces here for equestrian trailers adjacent to the trailhead. You can see here, with one-way traffic for safety purposes. The parking area will be decomposed granite. There will also be 2 corrals, a water source provided. The existing stand of Engelmann oaks are also being preserved adjacent to the staging area. Adjacent to the staging area is the community garden. The oaks will provide a buffer between the 2 areas. The garden will consist of a raised planting bed, storage space, and a water source for the garden. Parking is located adjacent for convenience purposes as well. The garden and the oak trees that are being preserved will provide a buffer between the rest of the park, the equestrian staging area, and the neighboring properties to the north. In the same area, we will have a volunteer living on site to assist in park operation and maintenance, but also provide a park presence in the park after hours. As you can see here, the pad will be able to see all areas of the park and into the open space areas. We'll have motion activated security and lighting at night to assist the volunteer and any sheriff's patrols at night after the park's been closed. We do use volunteers on many of our parks. This is something that is very common. Like I said, not only do they help with safety and security, but they do help us reduce our operating costs for the parks. We have two play areas, one a traditional playground for ages 2 to 12, and then the other is a nature play area, which will be more for kids 5 to 12. The nature play areas will have features made of all natural materials, such as trees and boulders. A good example would be our Estrella Park in Valle de Oro, or our San Isabel Nature Center. That also has a nature playground there if folks are wanting to see an example here in the county. The traditional playground will be your traditional playground with swings, some climbing features. It will be shaded where the natural play with the structure of the natural play area will be shaded with trees. Both will be located adjacent to this picnic area and open lawn area here, as you can see, which will help with parents being able to overwatch their kids while they can have a seat or at group picnics or what have you. We will have this picnic area. Any barbecues we have, you see in the park, associated with the picnic areas, those will be closed during red flag warnings. Our staff, we have standard procedures for that. We have a policy around the barbecues. They tape them up. We post signage that the barbecues are closed. Anyone with reservations, we inform them of that as well before they arrive, and we also increase controls of the park to ensure that those strict restrictions are followed by our park users. Here's our activity area. This is our main area. This will include our administrative maintenance building. We'll also have a restroom here with a water fountain. There'll be a shaded pavilion for group events or birthdays, special events like that. We're planning game tables as well. As you can see, there's a pickleball court and a basketball court, and we'll have a drop-off area here as well, just as a matter of convenience. And what's not shown here is depending on the costs that we get and some of the funding, we are looking at a potential community room here where that room could be used for recreational programming or could just be rented out by community members. Here we'll have our off-leash area. We'll have two areas separated for large and small dogs near the entrance of the park. These areas will be fenced. The fencing will be high enough to prevent dogs from jumping over for safety purposes. Obviously, we recognize they're right next to the road, but we'll make sure our little critters are safe. So the fencing will definitely be high enough for that. We'll have a shaded entry and some seating and picnic tables for our pet owners. And then the dog surfacing will be decomposed granite, which is another shown grass here in the photo, but that's typically what we use decomposed granite for maintenance purposes, quite frankly. We also have a youth baseball field proposed, so this would be for Little League and youth softball. It's going to be artificial turf. We will not have any field lighting as part of this, so this will be a daytime use. We'll be providing dugouts, bleacher seating, and some warm-up mounts, part of this as well. And then in the back outfield areas are sloped planted areas that will some shaded spectator seating in the outfield. And this will also help provide a buffer for home runs to protect cars from the home runs coming out of the baseball field. Multi-use open turf area. This area will be natural grass with picnic tables, picnic areas, and exercise stations around the perimeter and walking paths. I know you can see the soccer field overlay, but and think sports park, but this park is not that, and this area has so much more potential than just that. So we see these areas being used for family gatherings, community events, tossing frisbees, you see here, flying a kite, or simply just reading a book and taking a nap in the park. There's lots of uses for this area, as we see in all of our other parks, and we see that for this park as well. Additionally, we will not be hosting any kind of tournaments here at this park, so I did want to make sure we are clear on that. All right, the last two amenities I want to go over the all-wheel area and the bike skills course. Both will be fenced. Both will have their own controlled entry points, and we'll have areas for users of all abilities and skill levels. So here's the concept of our all-wheel area, and when we say all-wheel, we mean skateboards, scooters, bicycles, rollerblades, wheelchairs, the whole gambit there. So we're designing this for everyone, not, like I said, not just skateboarders, and that's why we call it an all-wheel area. We'll have a street course here, and we'll also have a bull zone along with some rails. The concept was recently updated based on the input we did receive at our meeting last fall. Onto the bike skills concept. Here we updated this also after our last meeting, and then following a meeting with San Diego Mountain Bike Association. The bike skills course will have a pump track and a flow and jump trails, and also a nice little area for riders to gather and take photos of folks going over the jumps. Materials for the jumps are still being determined, but we'll definitely have a mixture and of different materials based on the different amenity there. Also, our goal with this is having these jumps is that the illegal jump building that's going on in Wrightsfield will be minimized or eliminated altogether by providing an area, a formalized area with jumps for the riders to recreate on. So that brings me, to the end. Despite our park size, we did design this park as a community park meant to serve the needs of Alpine residents of all ages and abilities, both now and the future. We took all of our outreach that we received. We looked at our park master plan. And we formalized this plan, which you see here today. As far as some of the park operations, the park will be open from sunrise to sunset. It will be open 7 days a week. There will be 2 gates at the entry points that will be locked when the park's closed. We will have park staff on site before, during, and after park hours, maintaining the park, and they receive that additional support from the volunteer host, like I said earlier. Lastly, before I conclude, I want to provide an update on the schedule. We do expect to finalize our construction documents and environmental impact report by the end of this year or early next year, and beginning construction on late summer, early fall of 2022. At this time, we are preparing an environmental impact report for the project, and we are soliciting some public input on environmental issues that should be analyzed in the report. Unfortunately, we have the public comment period ends today. I know our meeting's right today, and the public comment period ends tomorrow, and our meeting is today, but all comments are due tomorrow by 5 p.m. and you can send them to the addresses here, the email address, and also the mailing address. That concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions that can come up. If anyone has any would like any additional information on the project, they can visit our website at stparks.org. Go to our Alpine page. There you'll find our concept plan, more information about the EIR, environmental impact report, some frequently asked questions, and also a summary of our stakeholder outreach. And you can also contact me, and my contact information is listed here. So thanks again for this opportunity, and we're happy to bring this park to Alpine, and we're here to answer any questions.
Travis, I have a question if I can.
Now, you know what, and I appreciate that opportunity for helping setting the stage closed. I was obviously pretty eager to get started, and I didn't just read off our agenda item, which is that the County of San Diego Department of Parks and Rec has issued a notice of preparation for an environmental impact report for a concept plan of the Alpine Community Park. I listed the URL, but the group will have the opportunity to provide feedback, outline any issues that it would like the county to address in the EIR, and may provide a recommendation on the concept plan. And so to your question, Mike, the county is going to stick around throughout the call. I want to get through our public comment period, and we'll have time for a question and answer from the group to anybody from the county or from the public that the group would like to speak with. So with that, thank you so much, Marcus. I'm going to go ahead and take over the share screen. So, make sure I got this one more button, right? So, my name is Travis Lyons. We're going to provide a presentation for the Alpine County Park Concept Plan Review on behalf of the planning group. My goal is to provide some background on the community planning group's role in working with the county to find suitable parkland for Alpine, provide context for the type of park that's being proposed, address additional properties that have been put forth for consideration, and finally to provide some context for the park site relative to Wrights Field and Alpine community. So, Sportsplex or community park? You know, I put this up here for a specific reason. There's two things that I wanted to address. One is in 2016 through 2018, actually, no, back up. Sportsplex or community park, the two ways that I've heard this park described quite often, either a sportsplex or a community park. And again, that's what I thought it was interesting. It brings some history into it. In 2016 to 2018, the Community Planning Group worked with the County of San Diego to identify a priority list for use of parkland developer ordinance funds. Every time a dwelling unit is built in the community of Alpine, it's approximately $5,000, I think it's just less than that, is put into a fund that's to be used for parkland development within the community of Alpine. For years, the community group and the county worked to find suitable property, but with the budget we had in our parkland developer ordinance funds, which was right around $1 million, it just wasn't feasible to go out and acquire, purchase, develop, plan a brand new park. And so we focused our efforts on looking for joint use opportunities. We landed on improving fields at Joe McQueen Middle School. The group made a recommendation to push that project forward, and it honestly inspired a significant amount of debate within the community. We had a number of public meetings that were very well attended. We had articles in the Alpine Sun, polls in the Alpine Sun, polls on social media sites. A number of groups were formed to give feedback to the county. And if I'm being really honest, the feedback at that time was roughly 50-50. There are a lot of people in Alpine who are very excited about active youth sports and improving the fields. And there were equally as many people who were advocating for a community park, something that offered recreation not tied to youth sports and that was off-school property. Again, the planning group recommended to move forward with resurfacing the fields of Joe McQueen, and I don't think that was a choice of choosing that over a community park. I think it was a recognition and a realization of what was feasible with the funds that we had, we saw value in utilizing the existing infrastructure on Joe McQueen's site, parking lots, restrooms, to improve those fields. But it brought up this discussion between a sportsplex and a community park, and we're seeing that now again. The one thing I think is important, obviously everybody's view is going to be a little bit different on this, but I think there's a Supreme Court case where they said, hey, you'll know it if you see it. And so I thought it'd be interesting to walk through and take a look at a couple other sites and kind of see the difference. I think there are a number of components of a sportsplex or active sports that are included in community parks, and then there are definitely sports complexes. This one's easy, right? They put it right in the name. Santee Sportsplex in the Town Center Community Park. It's roughly 60 acres, not including Rio Sacco Elementary School in the top left with those 4 additional ball fields. But this is a sportsplex. It's clearly a sportsplex. There's 7 baseball diamonds, 2 football field, soccer field, hardcore soccer fields. There's stadium seating, concession stands, a pool. But you'd also find things that you find in a traditional community park. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see those landscaped or multi-use lawns that can be used for sports and also recreation. It's adjacent to San Diego River. There's links to natural trails. So although there are components that you'd find in a community park, this is definitely what you consider a sports complex. Here's another easy one. Lakeside National Ball Fields. This is a county park. The last one was a city park. Lakeside Ball Fields is about 16 acres. You can see 4 baseball diamonds. Also include a playground for kids, some landscaping throughout the parking lot, and again, walking trails that connect to the San Diego River and adjacent open space. But again, very clear in this 16 acres, this is a sports complex. This is where I think it starts to get interesting. This is a concept plan that's a county park. It's in development. This is up in Bonsall. It's roughly 51 acres. But this one, according to the county, was developed with feedback from the community that was more squarely focused on active ball fields and sports complex. And so I think you see that reflected in the design. Three baseball diamonds, a number of soccer fields. There's a bike park. There's a skate park, basketball courts, tennis courts. But again, you're starting to see a little bit more of a blend. There's a dog park here, walking trails. It's also adjacent to open space and an elementary school. We're starting to see that, sometimes these things, there's a little bit of components of both. It's not all or one. But this one definitely, I think, still leans a little bit more towards a sports complex. This next park's one I think a lot of people will be familiar with, one I've enjoyed myself. I've taken my kids there. I went there as a kid. Pine Valley County Park. This is on 17 acres. Now I'm starting to see what I least associate with a community park. You can see the shaded areas, the landscaping, the multi-use natural grass lawns, but you still have some components of active sports fields in there. They've got that baseball field and soccer field combo, got a basketball court, tennis courts, but they also have the playgrounds. They have a little mini splash park, shaded areas, barbecues, picnic tables. Again, this is starting to feel, again, what I envision and what I've seen, what I think is relatively understood to be a community park. This last one, actually Mary Harris suggested this to me, at least as reference, Harry Griffin Park in La Mesa. I think it's roughly 51 acres, and there's almost very little sports complex component included in this park. This is, I think, a traditional community park. Again, you see those landscape, natural grass lawns for people to get out and connect with their neighbors, their family. There's walking trails. There's a dog park in the top right. But even in this park, I think you can see located adjacent to Grossmont, they have in the immediate area all the components of those sports fields already. And so it's part of the reason I think that probably drives not including those in the park. Grossmont already has a full-size football stadium, track and field, soccer, tennis courts, baseball diamonds, and a gymnasium. Which brings us to our concept plan. When I look through the amenities, I definitely see components of active sports. the bike park, the skate park, the one baseball field, the one basketball court, and the pickleball courts, obviously focused on active recreation. But I think the balance from the design, which includes the equestrian staging and arenas, the playgrounds, the nature playground, the community gardens, the game pavilions, these are all things that I think are traditionally associated with a park. And we're left looking at the multi-use lawns with perimeter shade. As Marcus said, I don't think it's impossible to imagine that, you know, on Saturdays in the fall, we'll have youth soccer, especially the younger ones out there, depending on field availability. But overall, those grass areas are not chalked permanently. They're not lined out. They really are areas for community gatherings. I've said it in previous meetings, and I'll say it again. I think Alpine's done a tremendous job at holding our community gatherings in parking lots of CVS and Albertsons and the community center. Do I think that's like ideal? No, I do not at all. I think this is a place that we're going to see community gatherings on holidays, for nonprofit events, fundraisers, and really just family gatherings out there in this community park. The next slide is more for reference and context. We've received some written comment that pulled information or communication from the County of San Diego that was submitted during Grossmont Union's high school district's EIR when they were studying multiple sites for a high school. This project is obviously on the same land, but occupies almost 50 acres and is vastly different than the proposed park project. So when the statement used that the county has said, hey, this is not a site to be used for such an intensive land use, I think it's reasonable to understand the difference between a high school that has a performing arts center, a library, gym, 4 classroom buildings, an abundance of parking, and an abundance of athletic fields, including, you know, a full-size track and field football stadium, tennis courts, swimming pool, baseball, soccer fields. I just don't think it's appropriate to conflate this project with the proposed high school on that site. Next, I just want to go over a couple of the alternative properties considered for parks in Alpine. You know, the ones outlined in yellow are ones that we've gone through in the past. I don't think I'm going to go through each one of those. I do want to address, though, 2 projects or 2 properties that have been brought forth and put forth as reasonable alternatives. And I want to address some of the reasons they haven't been moving forward in those sites. The first one's where the Grossmont Union High School District ultimately chose to purchase land for a high school site, commonly known as a Lazy A on Alpine Boulevard, just east of Albertsons. 90 acres, roughly about 40, 45 are usable and away from the riverbed there, but I think there's a couple issues why this would be maybe a potential ideal park site. The challenges are, one, it's owned by Grossmont Union High School District. It was acquired for $22 million and used eminent domain. There's already plans developed and permits in process for a high school site, and the site's currently used for agricultural education through the Grossmont High School District. Grossmont's not a willing seller. So as much as I think it's tough, I think every Alpiner, at least myself, wishes that we'd see a high school here and thinks that it'd be appropriate based on the bonds that have been passed to build a high school, that this could be at least used for something in the community. And I've seen questions, well, why are we going forward with a county park when we're not moving forward with high school? I think there needs to be an understanding. We have 2 different governmental agencies with different fiduciary interests to their districts. And the Grossmont Union High School District, even if it wanted to, could not sell this for anything less than fair market value, which at $22 million is almost the entire budget to develop the park concept plan before us tonight. The second is the Alpine Elementary School site. Pretty similar issues related to this. It's not being operated as a school right now, as an elementary school, but it is being used, a portion of the buildings are being utilized for adult education. The soccer field's utilized by AYSO for adults and kids, and the district right now is evaluating long-term plans for its assets. But again, even if the school district of Alpine said, hey, I want to just give this park to the community, give this land to the community of Alpine, it literally can't, by law. take anything less than fair market value for highest and best use. Again, it has a fiduciary interest in Alpine Union School District's not a willing seller. So again, an interesting parcel, just over 10 acres, but the cost associated with it would be significantly higher. And again, the school district's not a willing seller at this time. To bring us to the end, I do want to just kind of quickly go over the park site relative to Wrights Field and the preserved lands and the community of Alpine. And, you know, I brought it up on Google Earth just for reference. Obviously, we can see this large area commonly kind of referred to as Wrights Field. What I think is important to kind of point out, the property that the land trust, Backcountry Land Trust owns, that was actually preserved land and open for public use is outlined in green. Up until recently, this is the land that the land trust owned. Didn't really have any access from South Grade. Its only legal access was over off of Tavern Road. The land trust over time has acquired 2 other properties, Findale Ranch, just south of the property. This is all land that is covered by conservation easements and is preserved for mini development. Next, the county purchased the 98 acres. So brought this into conservation and potentially parkland and open space, prevented it from residential or commercial development. We still have some private ownership in the land, but this owner has been working with the land trust and the county to use a portion of this land for mitigation land. It's likely unbuildable and is prime mitigation land for other projects. The 15 acres that had been previously considered for parkland has been donated to the Backcountry Land Trust. And so we're starting to see this come together. I think I want to acknowledge, I totally understand the reasoning and the environmental issues associated with fragmentation. I also want to put forth the idea that over time, we've potentially conserved over 365 acres in the center of Alpine. And the county's recent purchase of the 98 acres has helped complete that purchase. This is unique. I don't think this is found in any other community. And I think it's also important looking at the potential park site, which is roughly outlined here. I've walked Wrights Field. I know a number of people have walked Wrights Field. I recently saw a very interesting social media post that was just beautiful pictures taken by a woman who traveled through Wrights Field, it had to be 15, 20 pictures. Not one of those pictures was going to be affected by this development of parkland adjacent to it. I think it's important to keep that in context because I think a lot of times we look at these maps and it's hard to kind of visualize what 25 acres looks like in the context of Greater Wrights Field. It's a little less than 10% of the preserved land within the community. The use is a lot less intensive than proposed previous uses. And obviously, it solves a big issue, which is Alpine's complete lack of parkland over the last 20 years. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close my presentation, and we're going to move on to the next special presentation. So if you just give me a minute, I'm going to promote the members of Preserve Alpine Heritage. Let me see. Panelists. And if you'll just bear with me real quick, it is the one group, I don't think everybody. And Julie, once you get on, you might be able to tell me the other members who are going to present. So Jim's with you.
My husband Jim Mason is with me already. The other presenters are Robert Fagari and Jody Roots.
Perfect. And
I can share my screen, correct?
Yep, go ahead and test it out now. I don't have the clock going or anything, so we'll have plenty of time. Let me get,
Can everyone see my Preserve Alpine's Heritage slide?
Yes, you can. I need to, let me see if I can find Robert. Robert Fagari, he might be under Christine. I'm going to.
He's probably under Christine.
Okay, no problem. Promote to panelists. And you're with Jim, And then the last one is going to be
Jody Roots.
Jody Root. I think I saw Jody on there as well.
And Julie, this is Christine. I think Bob's under Bob Fagari. He's not under mine.
Okay.
Travis, if you can see Bob Fagari there.
Yep, let me get him.
So you can demote me.
It's nice hearing from you, Christine.
You too, Julie.
Thank you so much. I thought I saw it under Robert earlier, and I apologize.
Thank you, Travis. I'm here.
There we go. Bob's on, Julie's on, Jim's with Julie, and then the last one is Jody, and I did promote one Jody. There were two in the meeting. I'll go ahead and promote the other Judy just in case.
Jody Roots.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have
maybe under George Roots.
no. I think I have two Jodys. I promoted one, and they just unmute. Jody, are you going to be able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
All right. Okay. And again, just for everybody's information, I've worked with Preserve Alpine Heritage. They've been communicating with us. I wanted to make sure they had an opportunity to do a special presentation. They decided to use their 15 minutes in two sections. They're going to present for 12 minutes and then reserve 3 minutes at the end of public comment. Is that correct, Julie?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And everybody, again, I'm going to ask if you're not presenting to please mute your line. And the floor is going to be yours. Thank you so much, Julie.
Okay, so thank you, Travis, for giving us this opportunity to present, to acknowledge our group, and thank you for running such a nicely organized meeting so that we can all come together and discuss this. So everyone's seen my screen, correct? There we go. First and foremost, I want to introduce our group. We are a new group. We were formed in 2020, admittedly in opposition to the park plan that came upon us. That was more than we expected. But we started off as something against, in opposition, but we really are developing to become something that's for Alpine, an awakening a little bit for our community, our neighbors, maybe those that took Alpine for granted, to become community advocates for our organization. And we're neighbors, we all are, and so we welcome this opportunity to be visible together. We are working to bring the desired facilities and services to Alpine. We support that, but we want to do so in a way that preserves everything that is unique to our community. So we're talking about this park. We wanted, and we see maps and all that, we wanted to take you to the location, to see where this will be. Some might see this as a perfectly open area for building. Others see it as a piece of land that is sacred, that is natural, connected to Wrights Field, which is a special ecological preserve. So initially, we were happy to hear that there would be a park, that there would be land purchased to preserve this location from development. And we all expected, which was communicated to the community, a small park, 10 to 15 acres, much more aligned with the location. So the idea, and I'm not going to repeat all of the things that are included because frankly, it's a lovely park. It's a lovely urban park, not a rural park next to a natural preserve. Animals, nature, sound doesn't recognize property lines. So we are concerned by this park. But I also want to be really clear. We are not against a park. We are against this park at this location. We welcome other opportunities, other solutions. We question whether this is really, truly the park that Alpine wants, and we're going to hear more about that. And we are putting forth some other options that, Travis, you touched on, and that ultimately we hope we can explore further through dialogue, community dialogue, etc. So on that note, I am going to hand it over to Bob, who is going to talk a little bit more about how we got here, some of the questions we have, and where we go from here. Bob, to you.
All right. Good. Can everyone hear me? Great. Okay. Thanks again, Travis and the group, for giving us this time. We really appreciate it. For over 15 years, Alpine residents have fought for a simple 10 to 15 acre nature-based park with simple things like shade, a playground, picnic tables, dog park, and trails for hiking and biking. Starting in 2019, Parks and Recs, I call them DPR, conducted 2 general public surveys that included 201 people. You can see DPR's own public outreach summary document lists the top 5 features that people want. Actually, why don't you go ahead and turn to the next slide. Great. And the thing is, all the results mirror the simple park idea I mentioned before. DPR tells us that the surveys are the basis for the plan, but we can't find any information as to how all these other activities ended up being in the proposed plan. It doesn't seem to represent the community. DPR didn't analyze the question and answer period from our January 14 meeting, but we did, and out of 300 people in attendance, only 6% indicated outright support for the proposed plan. The other 94 expressed very serious concerns about all the other activities and the effect it would have on the environment and the aesthetic attributes that the rights area gives to us. And unfortunately, when DPR didn't get the answers that it wanted from the surveys, it seemed to have moved into another approach, which is to get together with hand-picked stakeholders and use them to kind of push through a plan behind the scenes. We have no access to any of those kind of conversations. You can't find that anywhere online. And for example, on September 23, they conducted a public outreach meeting that focused on all wheel and bike skills areas. Well, this meeting was run by a skate park vendor. And these activities themselves seem to be proactively created by DPR and the bike skate interests, not the general community. You can't really ask a hot dog and beer vendor what food ought to be served at a baseball game and call it honest research. The DPR can't ask ball teams, bike groups, skate groups, sport complex enthusiasts to develop and support a plan and call it honest public outreach, yet it kind of seems like this is what's going on. We're concerned too that DPR seems to be holding back some information from the public. It's now impossible to access all the actual survey data or any notes from meetings with so-called stakeholders and any vetting information on the 219 acres beyond what Travis was talking about that the county master plan identified as buildable for parks. The next slide, please. In a letter to the Alpine Sun, a DPR spokesperson, Jessica Geisler, I think is her name, actually wrote this. She said, people are under the wrong impression that the park design is complete. And yet we don't understand how could DPR ask ACPG to approve a proposed plan that isn't complete. This is nonsense. If I own land and I went to the planning commission and said, well, I'm not sure yet what the house will look like. I kind of want a well for water, but I may have to trench a quarter mile to the city. I may go with septic, but she's not perking well, so I may have to trench another quarter mile for that. It's old Kumeyaay land with lots of historical, natural, and cultural treasures, but I'm not too worried about that. I am working on an EIR, but I've told everybody we're shovels in the ground come the end of summer. So I want your approval today. The key elements in my scenario are exactly the same thing that the DPR park proposal has in it. And there are many more concerns that we have. Things like safe and easy access, natural habitat being imperiled, all the fire danger, the fiscal viability and maintenance, and especially the alpine quality of life. As a private citizen presenting such an incomplete plan, I'd be laughed out of the place, but not DPR. They seem serious about wanting you, ACPG, to approve this terribly flawed plan. ACPG has been the only one willing to listen to the general community And we ask you to not allow yourself or the community to be pressured by DPR into approving this plan until the EIR is done. There's been sufficient input from the general Alpine community, and DPR's process is far more transparent. The beauty and majesty of our beloved Wrights Field is at stake. Please preserve the unique natural, cultural, and rural heritage of our community. And now there are lots of better alternatives, which I want to turn over to our partner here, Jody Root.
Thank you, Bob. And like Julie and Bob, I'd like to thank the group for giving us an opportunity to talk with you tonight. I'd like to talk about a possible alternative to the proposed park. We support a network of local alpine parks that would benefit the entire community. That network would be composed of a 12 to 15 acre park on the county's property, which is, as Bob mentioned, it was the same size originally proposed and promised by the county. It would be nature-based, which is the type of park the community has most prominently expressed its support of. The design would minimize the impact on rare habitat and preserve its significant rural heritage. It would also support and protect Wrights Field, which is Alpine's most highly utilized recreation area present. That park would be connected safely with other parks, fields, and facilities in Alpine by a system of safe walkways, bike paths, and trails. The other parks would be located in areas of need, potentially a new all-wheel park in the town center, or use of existing parks, fields, and facilities through reuse, joint use, restoration, or innovative design. This type of collaboration is called out in the Alpine Community Plan for the county to participate with existing field and park operators. And the county's had a history of joint use projects with public agencies and nonprofits in Alpine. This alternative is not only a good idea, it removes a number of the concerns that Bob previously pointed out in his presentation on the proposed park. It is the way of the future for Alpine and other growing communities who want to preserve their rural nature. And with this, I'd like to pass the discussion on to Jim.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Mr. Lyons, for giving some comments on this matter. What I would ask, and what we would ask of the Alpine Community Planning Group is, as a call to action, is to reject the current plan design, park design as it is, step back while there is still time. Now, as our community representatives, reconsider what is possible here. Reconsider the value of this contiguous grassland that defines that location and is a precious and unique resource for Alpine. Validate that a considerable number of Alpine residents have concerns and questions as manifest by us being here tonight and by the hundreds of individuals who have joined a Facebook page. Support a comprehensive survey on proposed park design. As people have become more familiar with the current design, they're better able to answer the question of what they truly want. Explore reasonable alternatives, like you've been hearing about from our previous speakers, joint use facilities, a community network of parks, and harness our community resources to help find and compromise the solutions to this problem. I'm going to turn this back over to Julie.
And I will follow up with all of the community members listening out there, and thank you for just a little 30-second or so extra, but please spread the word. We actually just want everyone to know what is being designed, what is being proposed, whether you're pro or opposing, just spread the word about the park. Stand up for increased transparency and get more engaged in the community. We're all realizing this, and we really encourage our neighbors to do the same. Check out our Facebook group. We are open. Everybody's welcome. As long as there's civil dialogue, it's a chance to kind of see, and check out our website. And I will just put up on the screen. You can read it for yourself. This is from the County of San Diego Parks Master Plan about communities like Alpine, that indeed we have more potential for growth. the location next to Wrightsfield is exactly that. But we have to do this carefully and balanced to preserve our unique identity. And there you have it. So thank you again. We know we went a little bit over, but we really appreciate the time. Thank you, Travis.
Hey, no problem, Julie. Thank you guys so much. And then just about under 13 minutes, we'll save some time for you at the end so you guys can use up the rest of your time. Thank you for being respectful of that. So I'll go ahead and put you guys back as attendees, and I'll remember to get Bob, Julie, and Jody right next time. So
thank you.
Thank you. So as I change it back to attendees, I have our list as we go through public comment.